Hey guys, Soulord here, back again with another edition of Throwback Thursdays, and what I have for you today is the McFarlane Toys Spawn Series 3, The Curse. And since I no longer have the packaging for this figure, nor does he come with any accessories to speak of, well, he does come with one, but it's already on him, so doesn't really count. We're just going to jump right into the meat and taters of this review, starting off with a funny story, because those of you watching this are probably wondering, why the Curse? Out of all the vintage Spawn figures you have, why this one? And I'm going to get into that, because when McFarlane Toys revealed Wave 2 of the Spawn Universe line, they showed off 3 figures in the basic assortment. And by basic, I mean figures that aren't giant cyborg monkeys and cool looking biker chicks with a crap load of weapons. You know what I'm talking about. But the first of which, revealed in said basic assortment, was a reissue of the Gunslinger, which I'm probably going to buy because I'm a sucker and I'd really like to have that minigun he comes with. Thing looks pretty cool. Second figure was the Dark Redeemer, which, because I'm a sucker, I'll probably buy anyways, even though it's just a repaint. A cool looking repaint, but it's a repaint. But the third figure, actually a new character. A character known as the Soul Crusher, I think. Let me know if I'm wrong about that in the comments below. But, yeah, Soul Crusher, another character that came with a couple of guns. And when he was initially revealed, a lot of people thought it was the Curse. So, yeah, kind of funny how that works. Turns out it's not the Curse, and it's a completely unrelated character to the Curse, but I figured, hey, I'm gonna make something of that and do a video for the first Curse figure that McFarlane Toys ever did, because I think it's kind of funny that a lot of people thought that was the Curse. So, there you go. It's mostly me being kind of a smarty pants and poking fun at people doing this video, but at the end of the day, it's all good fun, isn't it? So, taking a closer look at the Curse here. His only accessory is his helmet piece, so I figured I'd just talk about it quick. Clips onto his face there. Has a very Robo-Cop-y vibe. RoboCop mixed with Macbeth from Gargoyles with a giant chainsaw arm. Which, like many a vintage Spawn figure, this guy does have a gimmick. You can pull on this kind of ripcord, and the chainsaw does kind of move. Kind of. It's not very effective. But, it's something, I guess. And I think this is a variant because he's got the black paint on the saw blade here. I don't think that's how the regular one was. I think he just had silver on the chainsaw, but I could be wrong. This guy just had a little bit more paint than my first one I had, so he took the place of it very soon after I got him, even though he's a little bit loosey-goosey in places, particularly this arm, but whatever. That said, he's got some Rob Liefeld-looking shoulder pauldrons going on. Very 90s. The big Spawn Todd McFarlane style boot on the left leg. It's usually on the right leg. The right leg, he's got this crazy armor going on. What he doesn't have really is, oh no, he does have it. He's got a pouch strapped to his hip there. So he's got almost all the 90s necessities. Big shoulder pads, strap on the thigh, big boot, cyborg arm, random tubers that have little to no significance, but they are nice and solid, so you're not going to break them at least. And random claw on the side of his chainsaw arm here. So this guy is like super duper 90s. He's very ridiculous. He's very silly, but you know him, you love him. It's the Curse, man. Now, I would have preferred a figure, the other version of the Curse, with the cape and the more hamburger head Spawn looking face with the exposed teeth and the kind of robotic claws. But I guess that came out a little bit later. It was more of a staction. I'm not sure if he had that look in the 90s, but it would have been nice to get a figure that looked like that in this vintage line, just because this is my bread and butter when it comes to Spawn. I love this original series, and even though the quality is not that great, but to say the very least, I love this line. It's really something that kind of expanded my collection past just, you know, more modern stuff. But as far as articulation goes, his head does rotate. And again, he's got a beard going on there. Very Macbeth looking. Very Macbeth from Gargoyles looking. His chainsaw arm does move up and down. It does have a hinge in the elbow here. The claw does open and close, and I already talked about the chainsaw having this kind of silly gimmick. What the heck is that? He's got a swivel in the shoulder here, and that's it for this arm. I'm surprised he doesn't have like a wrist swivel or anything, but it's whatever. Well, he's got this weird little blade shield claw thing, though. Random blade shield claw thing. That's another thing off the 90s checklist. No waist swivel. He does have a swivel in the hip, though, and a hinge in the knee. No real peg holes to speak of, I don't believe, on this guy, but it's whatever. It is whatever. But that's pretty much it. That is the Curse in a nutshell. Very, very basic figure. Not a whole lot going on. Not the most interesting of the vintage Spawn line, but one I wanted to check out nonetheless. More so because people got that new Soul Crusher guy confused with this guy. I knew it wasn't the Curse, but you know, I could see where people were confused. That and the Curse is an established character, so it makes sense that McFarlane Toys would eventually get around to making a new one, wouldn't it? I guess if he still had the rights, huh? That's another can of worms. But that is another story for another day, because now it's time for us to take a look at some size comparisons. And unfortunately, much like many a vintage Spawn figure review on this channel, the only comparisons I have handy for this video are our two regulars, the Mythic Legion's Brother Mandibulus and the 11 Spawn, who as usual towers over everyone. Yeah, the old Spawn stuff is definitely not in scale with McFarlane's current 7-inch scale. I actually think he's been in the 7-inch game since the early 2000s, but don't quote me on that. Don't hold me to it. Let me know if I'm wrong in the comments below. But yeah, I guess it would help if I had an extra Spawn 1 or something lying around to compare these other characters to, huh? But with that being said, it's time now for us to wrap things up with some final thoughts. Overall, and yeah, I'd be lying if I said this was one of my favorite figures from the first few waves of the vintage Spawn line. I mean, yeah, I can appreciate a giant robotic chainsaw arm as much as the next guy, but at the end of the day, this guy just seems kind of basic to me. He seems like a background villain from the animated series Gargoyles. I don't know, I always saw Macbeth when I looked at this guy. He gives me a lot of Macbeth vibes, which is cool, but when there is a superior version of this character design out there, the one with the cloak and the more, I guess, hamburger head Spawn looking face and the claws and just the more gnarlier looking one that I guess came out later, which is why we never got him in this line, I'd rather have a figure of that. So I'm hoping in the new Spawn Universe line that McFarlane Toys gives us that version, and it's all big and articulated and awesome. But for now, I am happy with this figure. I'm happy to have this character, but it's just not one of my favorites. And that kind of sucks, because there's a lot of really good characters in this wave. There's Vertebreaker, the Redeemer I took a look at. Well, kind of took a look at. I looked at the reborn version of that figure, but we did talk about it a little bit and compared it to the kind of updated version that came later. I think Spawn 2 was in this wave, Ninja Spawn, Cosmic Angela, Future Spawn. There was a lot of decent figures in this wave, and this guy just seems kind of basic compared to the rest of the lineup for this wave. And then as far as Series 4 goes, we've almost kind of covered all that wave. The only ones I haven't reviewed that I do currently own are Exoskeleton and Shadowhawk. I do not have the Max because he's kind of pricey, which is kind of surprising because he's just kind of a hollow chunk of plastic at the end of the day, but it is the Max, and the Max is cool. So maybe this year I'll wrap up these couple of Spawn waves. I haven't looked at anything from Wave 2 yet, which is kind of surprising. In Wave 1 I've only done Violator and Spawn himself. I never did the Clown, so maybe I'll do the Clown. Medieval Spawn is coming up soon. That'll probably be the next Spawn video I do, but I think for a while I'm going to take a step back from Spawn. I would like to look at the Toy Biz Ghost Rider series a little bit, because it is the 50th anniversary of Old Hothead, so I think that'll be a lot of fun. Those figures are a little bit more interesting, in my opinion, with the glow-in-the-dark elements and whatnot, and let's be fair, I think I'll have a little bit more to show for size comparisons with those videos because I have all those figures kind of on one shelf. They'll be easier to get to, much like the gargoyles. So, with that being said, if you're looking for a cursed figure to go with your vintage Spawn collection, this is the only option, unfortunately. There are some paint variations. I think this is the best one because it's got a little bit more detail to it with that black on the chainsaw blade, but other than that, the regular one's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just this one has a little bit more paint apps going on, so I prefer this one. So that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's edition of Throwback Thursdays. If you are so inclined, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know whenever I upload more content to the channel. If you haven't already, please hit me up on Instagram at Overlord Productions. But as always, keep the comments civil. This world sucks enough as it is. And until next time, catch you guys later.